Good morning, all. So today I wanted to show you how I create my thank you cards. It's fairly simple. I do start off, I use two different softwares. I use Canva to create my thank you card, and then I use Silhouette to print it out and cut it. So like I used to actually create it and then send it out to print at Walgreens. You can do that as well. But sometimes I am strapped for time and don't have time to, send that to process and then want to pick it up. So for instance, today I need my thank you cards right away because I need to send out some shipping orders that I have. And so I decided to create my own. Um, Basically what I do as you can see here, everything is separate. I make these one at a time using the fonts that I have. So for instance, I will go to Elements and I will type in thank thank you. Oh, and I'm typing that all wrong. Thank you. Okay, so I get a bunch of different graphics. You can also use the photos. I use the graphics and just look for a thank you that I like. If I don't like any of them and I want to be more specific, I can. I think I used this one here. So you see how it shows it to me in black? Let me go to the layers of that because it's positioned in the wrong place. I don't want to mess up my actual thank you card. So if I go to layers, I can move that one up all the way and then I can play with it. So now it's on the top layer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add another page here so that I can play with it. Okay, so I'm going to bring this down to this page and then bring it down to the next page. And this is pretty much how I started messing around with it. So here, we're making a fresh one. Let's say I want this a different color. I will go where the color tab is up here. Let's say I want it in gold. I can go ahead and put that in gold. If I want to animate this or I want to add things to it, then I can go to edit image. Actually, no, I can't. Let's see. Yeah, I can like play with the color mix here, or I can just create a dupe, and that's exactly what I did. I duplicated this, and then I changed the top layer to blue. And then I put it over it. I positioned it however I wanted to. So I kind of like this because the gold gives it like a little shadow in the back. You can position this however you like. Then if I want to add like the gradients on the side or the smoke, I can go to back to elements. I can put small fog blue fog, um, or blue and gold, and I just grab an element that I want and I place it where I want it. So for instance, I'm going to grab that one, or I can go into the magic recommendations here. I can go to see all and I can use some of those. I don't like this one, it's too dark. And I can show you a trick for that if it's too dark or too light. For instance, this one up here that I used, if I go to transparency, I can make that a lot lighter. And that's usually what I do to mine. If it's too dark and I want to just change the color of that, I can go to edit photo. And I can use filters. And then I can go down. Usually I'll go to like vintage fade. You don't have to do it this way. It's up to you. I'll play around with the intensity of that. Again, you can do this however you'd like. You can even change the color altogether. See, you could add or take away the intensity of that. And then what I do is I go back in here and I go to the positions and I layer this to the bottom of my thank you so that my thank you is over it. I don't know if you caught that. If you look over here, that fog, if I move it from the layers area, you see how it's taking over some of that O and the U. It's going over it. So I want the thank you over the actual fog. So I move it, I position that, and the way I move it is I select it, I go into the layers because you can also arrange like the height, width, where you want it. For instance, if I wanted it centered, I would press center. If I want it over to the right, I can press to the right. You can position that wherever you want. If for instance, I put it all the way to the right, but I still want it a little over, I'll go ahead and position it myself by holding down my mouse. After I select it, I hold down my mouse and then I move it. Or for instance, if you have a laptop, then you would be holding down the mouse pad. Okay. I don't like this color, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate this one because I already changed the transparency of it. I'm just going to duplicate that and move it over. I can also rotate this right here. The circle with the arrows that look like they're going in a circle, that's the rotate. So I can rotate that in Canva as well. Okay. Then again, see how it's going over the Y. So I want to go to the layers. I go to position, I go to layers, and then the layer that I'm working with is selected. So I'm just going to drag it down underneath that thank you. I'm also going to do it to the one in the corner. I'm going to select it. I'm going to push down on my mouse and I'm going to drag it down to underneath the thank you so that that layer is underneath the wording. You can also add your logos. You would just have to upload a logo if you have it made. If you don't have it made, then I suggest you make one. You can use Canva to make it. That's a whole nother process. Let's say I want my QR code up there. So I'm going to select my QR code. I'm going to put it wherever I want it. And what if I want to change that white area? I believe I can do so. If I go to edit photo and I go to background remove, it should remove all the white area and leave it just at the blue. Okay, so it's up to you if you want to play with it. Once you have that done, your thank you card the way you want to, you can add other text to this. You just go down to text, you select, let's say I want a gold text. I'm going to add a text box. Okay. Right here, when you add a text box, I can put my name, Monie the Craftologist. Okay. Now I want to move that, but see how everything else, when I'm trying to grab that box, everything else is moving. So I unselect and then grab it again. That made any sense? When I say unselect this, I click anywhere else. And then I come back and I select that again. And you should be able to move it that way. If something else is in the way, for instance, if this layer were on top, I would probably have a hard time grabbing that. So then I would have to go into my position and my layers column and bring that layer to the front. I would go here. It's all the way in the front, and that's why I'm able to grab it. Let's say I had it down here. I'll show you an example. If I'm trying to grab my name, I'm not going to be able to because this layer is on top. So what I do is I click anywhere else. Okay, or actually I could click that one and I go into position. Okay, I'm going to look for my name and I'm going to position that all the way on the top so that I can select that because that layer will then be over everything else. So if I click anywhere else, now that it's on the top layer, I can move it. Okay, I can change the color to gold. If I wanted to put bold, I can do that too if I want to italicize. So this gives you pretty much all the writing options that a document would give you. If you want to change the font type, you can do so too. Okay. So voila, let's say this is my thank you card. Now I want to save that. You go to share, you go to download. Okay. This you can mess with the size. I'm going to leave it to where it's adjusted. You can save it as PNG. You can save it as PDF. This gives you pretty much like JPEG is the best for sharing. PNG is the best for images and illustrations. So that's one of the better ones to use when you are doing when you're using it in Cricut or when you're using it in Silhouette. You can do it SVG, but that's going to give you a bunch of layers. So it's more for like animation purposes. I don't want a bunch of layers because I'm not going to cut every layer separately. However, if this was something that I created where I want every layer to be cut separately, for instance, the thank you cards, the thank you writing separate from everything else, then I would pick SVG. But I don't want that. So my best bet is to go with PNG. Now, if you're going to use this in a like a Word document, then you can use PDF standard. The problem with using PDF standard is if you want to put this in like Silhouette Studio or in uh, Design Space for Cricut, it's not going to let you because it doesn't accept PDF form. So I just go with the PNG. Now, I already had 2 other pages on here, so it's giving me the option to select all 3 of those, and what it will do is it will put it in a zip drive. However, if I just want to add this 3rd page and not the other 2 pages, then I will click on this. I would deselect all of them. So this is my 1st page and my 2nd page that I already had. And then I would just select the 3rd one, press done. Once you press done, you can press download, and that's going to download your file. It's going to be under this file name. So if I wanted to change that, I can change it to whatever. So I can put thank you sample, and then you see the save file type is PNG, and then you press save. Okay, and that's going to save that. I'm going to cancel it because I really don't need to save it. This was just a sample. Once you do that, and you can go ahead and go into Silhouette or Design Space. I'm going to go ahead and use Silhouette today. Okay, so I am back. I am going to show you now how I put things into Silhouette Studio, even though I don't think it's letting me do this. Let's see. Okay, here it is. So what I do is, first I want to look for the file. So let's pretend that this is not here. I am going to go to File up here and then Merge. I am then going to look for those thank you cards. I have a lot of stuff on here. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and select my thank you card, PNG or JPEG. I believe it should be PNG. Okay, here it is. And then I press OK, and that's going to bring it over. Okay, and then I want to resize it. So I will select that. I want to resize everything. So I just showed you how to add the files, and that's how I added both the thank you portion of it, and I added, which is this one, and I added my logo. So I'm going to move my logo over. I'm going to bring this up. I want to resize it because I think 4x6, even though it's a nice size, I want to go a little bit smaller. So I'm going to go to 3.5 by 5. Okay. I think that's a better size. It can probably fit more in one page as well. This area right here, I want to change as well. So I'm going to go to this sheet. It looks like a sheet of paper up here on the, what is this? Right side corner. I am going to make sure that my cameo is set up to 12 by 12 because that's the mat that I will be using. And then my printer that I'm going to be using, it's going to be printing on a 8 by 5, a 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. So that one is fine. You can always adjust that to whatever your size of your paper is. Mine is 8.5 by 11. So that's what I'm going to use. I do want my show print border because I want to see, it's that gray area right there. I cannot pass that gray area. Okay. And then show cut border is the red area. So anything that I cut has to be within that area. However, the registration marks are in some. So if I wanted to open that cut area a little wider, I can go where it says that same page setup to the third one. And I am using Canva Pro, but you should, in the basic Canva, you should be able to do this as well. So I click on that one. I want my registration marks on. However, where it says position inset, I want to minimize that. And I don't know if you can see. So if I add more, it's going to make that area, that cut area smaller. But if I come out all the way, it's going to make the area bigger. So that's the biggest that I can go. I like to make, now you can change the length of that. I leave it kind of regular because I do want my machine to see that. And I also make it a little thicker so that it is visible to my machine. I like, sometimes when you put it too thin, the machine may not pick it up. Not always. It should be picking it up, but so you need to make sure that everything that you are going to add to your sheet is within those red lines. Okay. So I am going to go ahead and position this right now. I am going to position it to align it to the left and align it to the top. Okay, so that is the furthest that I can go. Now, I want to duplicate this. So I can come over to the replicate, which looks kind of like a butterfly or a star. Or you can go to edit, I believe. One of these panels. Okay, the panels one up on the top toolbar. Then you go to replicate. It's going to be the same thing as if you go over to the toolbar on the left. So I normally just go to the toolbar on the left, the one that looks like a butterfly. And this gives me the option of duplicating. So I can either duplicate to the left, but I'm not going to do that because there's not going to be enough room to add another card to the left. So I'm going to undo that. And I'm going to duplicate down instead to see how many I can go down. So where it says duplicate, you can use that to duplicate one at a time, or you can use rows and columns. I'm not using rows and columns because I don't know how many rows I can make yet or how many columns I can make yet. Actually, rows, I know that I can only make one, but columns, I don't know how many I can make. or columns I can only make one, but rows I don't know how many I can make yet. So we're just going to have to find out. So I'm gonna duplicate below. That's one time, and then duplicate below again. So that one is not gonna fit. Um, Maybe I want to resize my cards. So I'm going to go ahead and delete that. Normally I print out 3 in one sheet, and I like to print out 3 in one sheet. So I'm going to go ahead and the height, put it at 3 instead of 3.5. So my width is going to be 5. My height is going to be 3. And I think it still looks good. I'm going to go ahead and line that up at the top. And then I am going to duplicate down. So 1, 2. Okay. Now, I don't think I can fit another one. It's going to be too far low past those registration lines. So 3 should be good. Then what I do is I'm going to select all. That's this on the toolbar. It's going to be like, it's going to look like 2 squares, one over the other. I'm going to select that, and that selects all. Uh-oh. I don't want to select the ones on the side. Let me delete one of these because I don't need 2 of them. I'm going to go ahead and resize that card on the side, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this thank you card double-sided. So I need to put the width at 5 for the logo, and the height, I believe we went with 3. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I'm just going to go ahead and duplicate it. Now that I know that I can add 2 more rows to that, I can just go ahead and click on column of 3. And that's going to be identical to this one. Okay. However, the position is going to be different. So what I am going to do, I was going to try to show you how I select all, but I'm not going to select all because then it's going to select this side one too. So I'm going to go ahead and click on my first one, hold down the shift button, click on my second, and click on my third without letting go of the shift button. And I know that you probably cannot see what I'm doing on my keyboard, but I'm using that pause or shift button. Once I have all 3 of them selected, I want to group those. So I am going to, on this second toolbar here, I'm going to go to group selected shapes. And let me see if the panel has that. I don't see it, but probably in the edits they have the group. Now that I've grouped that, I'm going to select it. I'm going to go to center to page. So again, that's in that second toolbar on the top. You can find the group and ungroup right side by side. And then you can also find the center to page. And it's just going to show you icons. However, when you go over an icon and you wait about 2 seconds, it'll show what the words of what it is. So I'm going to center to page and watch what's going to happen. It brought it right to the middle of the page. I can't do anything else with the outside areas because nothing else is going to fit there that I want to print. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Now that I did that, I want to work with what's going to go behind it, which is going to be my logo. So remember we had already replicated that. So I'm going to go ahead and select. Again, I can either select one by one, pressing down the shift button at the same time, or I can just select an area right outside, push down on my tab, on my mouse pad, and drag it to select all of them. Okay, now I have selected all of them. I'm going to go ahead and go over to that second toolbar at the top to where it says group selected shapes, the icon. I'm going to group that. And then I'm going to add this to a second page. So I'm going to press copy, or I can cut it. Okay, so the cut and copy is in that first toolbar icons. I'm going to open a second page or a second tab. And then I am going to I'm going to select on that page and I am going to paste. Okay, it's going to paste right on the outside where it was on the other page. Remember on my first tab, it's over here. So when I add it to the second tab, it's going to add it in the same place. Okay, while it's still selected, I want to go ahead and press center to page. Now with this page, I don't have to worry about any of those registration marks. It's going to center in the exact place where the other cards are, where the front of that card is, I should say. And I can show you in the first tab. So if I click on that and I go to center to page, it's going to bring it right over exactly to where those other icons are. Okay. Now you don't want to do it on the same tab that you have created the back of that card or the front of that card. So I'm going to go ahead and bring that back. I just wanted to show you that it's going to center in the exact same place. So when I'm on my second tab, I don't need the registration marks. I really don't. And then I just sent this all to print. So I'm going to go ahead back to that first, this first page. When I send to print, it's only going to print what's on the page. It's not going to print what's on the outside of that page. So I'm going to go ahead and go to print up here. And then I'm going to press print again. And then I'm going to look for the printer that I'm going to print on. I have a few printers, so I'm going to go to preferences. I'm going to make sure that I click plain paper and best. You can always adjust to whatever you would like. I'm going to leave it there. I did not need to mirror anything. So I'm going to go ahead and press apply. And then I am going to add my paper to my printer. And what I use is, I either use a plain white cardstock, but lately I have been using this Canon photo paper. It has been working great. It's called matte photo paper, and I should probably change my preferences so that it is matte paper. It's not HP, but I'm just going to go ahead and put HP matte brochure or other matte inkjet paper. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and press other matte inkjet paper just for the sake of this video, but it really doesn't matter. You can press HP. It's pretty much the same settings. I'm going to go ahead and load my printer, and I know that you probably cannot see what I'm doing from there. But I went ahead and I loaded my printer with the modifications that I did to it. I'm going to press OK here. I'm going to press apply. I'm going to press print. And that is going to print my first page with the registration mark. So what you see here on the page, those lines, those are my registration marks. Once it prints out this page, I can go ahead and print out the second page. Okay, so I have been printing the page off of my HP printer, and I want to just show you how it comes out. So the way it comes out like this. This part on the top, my registration marks are down here. Now, what I need to do is I need to flip the paper. So it comes in this way, comes out this way, right? So those registrations are down at the bottom. What I need to do is flip the paper. Actually, no, so that it prints out the same way. I am going to, it came out like this. I need to flip it this way so that it comes out this way. I don't know if you understand that, but anyway, so even though the registration marks came out from the bottom, in order for it to print directly on the back of this thank you card, I need to insert it facing up, because now it's going to print the opposite side. And I'm using my tray, my cassette down here instead of the back. So I'm going to go ahead and insert it this way so that I can print that second page. And I will show you how that printed out once I press print on that second page. I'll be back. Okay guys, so I finished printing it. This was the first page that I printed, and this is the back, and you can see how it is exactly where it needs to be, because you can see almost the logo on the other side. And I just wanted to show you guys how that comes out. Okay, so before I send it to cut, I like to add a holographic laminating sheet, which I am going to do. Here is the laminating sheet. It comes in different styles. Some have stars, some are plain, some have hearts. It's up to you which one you like to use. I honestly like to use the plain one, but I'm looking for it and I don't see it in here. Here it is. Okay, so I like to use this plain paper. Now, what I am going to do is, let me see, is this long enough? So what I like to do is I like to cut off the tips of this so that it doesn't mess with the registration marks, because sometimes the lighting on the corners, or sometimes the lighting when it's looking for the registration marks, can not find the registration marks when there's holographic in the way. So as you can see, I cut the edges of my holographic paper. And then Lord, this is going to eat me alive. Okay, I am going to use my weeding pen to lift the side of that, or else I would never be able to do that. Okay, so I went ahead and I cut the edges off. And then I place it down to make sure that, oh, whoa, don't go in there. Make sure that all my cards are covered. I can use one of these scrapers to take out any bubbles. I didn't have any bubbles, thankfully. Or you can also use your roller, which I do sometimes as well. Now on one side I'm going to use the plain, and on the other side I'm going to use the stars, only because my theme has stars. So I'm going to go ahead. Actually, I don't need to cut the corners on this side because it doesn't have the registration marks. Oh, I was able to grab this side nicely. So I'm going to go ahead and make sure there's nothing on that paper that doesn't need to be there. What is this? Some little piece of glue or something laying around. Okay, so that is that. There's bubble on this one, so I want to rub that out. Okay, so that is how I add my laminating sheet. And I put it on to my mat with the registration marks facing upward. Okay, I do like to secure it onto the mat just to make sure that it's not gonna go anywhere if your mat is sticky enough, but I like to be on the safe side because sometimes when you add a little more pressure or something, it won't cut all the way through, or I'm sorry, it'll put more pressure onto the to the paper, and then it shifts, and I want it to cut all the way through without lifting. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and put this on my machine. Let's face you this way. You're just gonna get the side view of my machine here. I'm gonna go ahead and feed it in there. And make sure that's centered correctly. There you go. Okay. Okay, so now I am in Photo Studio. Did I just say Photo Studio? I meant Silhouette Studio. I'm sorry. I'm just getting all my words messed up. It is only 7 o'clock in the morning over here. I select the send button. I put it at cut so that I make sure that it's cutting all 3 of those cards where it needs to cut. And then I am going to press send down here, and hopefully it catches those registration marks. Excuse the sound of my machine. Cameos tend to be a little louder than Cricut machines, and I don't know why I have my Cricut open over here, looking for attention. So it's gonna go ahead and cut that. I put it to plain cardstock. Hopefully it cuts all the way through. I'm not sure if it's gonna cut all the way through because I did put those laminating sheets and I forgot to change the blade depth and pressure. Okay, so it finished cutting without taking it out. And when I say it, I'm talking about the mat. Without taking the mat out, I'm going to go ahead and put my blade to a 6 instead, just to make sure. I'm going to add a little bit of speed so it goes a little faster. And then I'm going to put the force at 24. I just want to make sure that it's going to go ahead and cut all the way through. I had it at plain cardstock, which should be okay. Let's do it again. So I'm just pressing send with my new blade depth. I didn't take it out so that I make sure that it cuts in the exact same place that it did the first time that it cut. So here it goes. It's going to start cutting again. And I do see some cut on there. I just want to make sure, because I don't want to take out the mat and then for it not to have cut all the way through. So this guarantees that I have a better cut on those cards. And if you don't have a cutting machine, you can always use some scissors or anything else. And that looks like it cut all the way through. So I'm going to go ahead and stop this. Okay, so now for the moment of truth. And it worked. It cut lovely. So I take these off. And there you have it. I have my double-sided holographic thank you cards. You can see the stars on this side. This side is just holographic. I didn't put too much because it already had stars on the sides there. So there you have it. That's how I do my thank you cards. I do the same thing for my business cards too. So that is it. Now you see how I do my business cards, my thank you cards. My business cards are the same process pretty much. Here's a closer look at it. I actually rounded the corners off. I use this cutter and I just insert it and round off my corners to whatever size you want. This one's a little pointier. This one's a little rounder. I got this off of Amazon. There is a link for this in my storefront, as well as the laminating sheets that I use. There is a link to that, and if you put, these are the laminating sheets. If you go into my Amazon store, make sure that you put the code. It is Monica Pedraza -20. So the laminating sheets come in here. And the photo paper that I used this time was Canon, but I also use Koala 61 pound. I believe this one is 45 pounds, so it's less, but works just as good. I use photo paper for the cardstock of these, matte photo paper, or you can use regular glossy photo paper from Koala, 61 pound. It's a little thicker. I don't know if you can do double-sided. You can look on there. I know that with the Canon, this one, the reason I like it is because both sides are matte, so you can print on both sides of that. Okay, that is all that I have for you today. Thanks for watching. Make sure you hit the like, the subscribe if you haven't already. Give me a thumbs up. Tell a friend to tell a friend. You know what I mean. And you're more than welcome to leave comments. I do check on them. So if you have any questions, you can leave it in the comments. Till next time.